Bottom left-hand side of the map, playing for Mouse Esports. It is HeRoMaRinE. Large Gabriel. He's very powerful.
Extremely powerful. As powerful as he is large, some would say.
Really? What? That's I don't know. I don't know if that's too big of a statement, Ravi.
Can it be too big of a statement?
I'm not sure.
I like that Stats is actually respecting the potential of, you were talking about HeRoMaRinE starting to mix in more cheese and everything, and we actually see Stats going for a little bit of a scout around the map, confirming that there's no crazy proxies or weirdness coming out already just with that probe scouting.
Yeah, but at the same time, HeRoMaRinE is now really known for his cheese or to pull it off in uncomfortable situations. So I feel like in a certain sense that makes me feel better for Big Gabe than it does make me feel for Stats, because it seems like Stats maybe didn't or doesn't know that, right? I don't know. I don't know that Showtime would be scouting for big game proxies,
Yeah. No, I think that's actually a good point. So far, we are going to see Probe be able to make it over here in time to do that little body blocking of the command center for a little bit, 85 extra minerals, minor little victories here and there. But this is definitely one of the maps, Oxide, where you can get that nice high ground wall off and everything, help deal with Hellion.
Oh no. Manor Mule. I mean, that's a little early for a Manor Mule, I would say, Ravi.
I mean, I'm not saying that this is something I would absolutely enjoy during HeRoMaRinE stream, but...
Yeah, I mean, he's smiling about it. He's not having he's not being too hard on himself, I think, which is a good thing, right? Like he's just having fun. He's gonna have to refocus. He's gonna have to get his head back in the game, because right now he's thinking, oh my god, everyone just saw that mule. I better smile for the camera. But right now he needs to put his game face on. It's good that he's not taking it too harshly, though.
Yeah, I'm definitely hoping that he ends up being able to not worry too much about that for sure. So far, that Reaper is going to be able to just encounter the shield battery, which is there kind of as like the early safety precaution. And I don't think any probes have actually gone down just yet, but where are the units on the other side of the map? The Adept making its way forward. It's able to actually harass that bunker a little bit, or the SCV's building the bunker. He's going to be able to maybe get that SCV build the command center. No, he doesn't go for it.
Oh no, he's going to get inside too. Oh, Big Gabe. This is a little bit too rough. This is Stats that he's going up against. You can't really let Adepts get inside your main like this. And now, I mean, given the start, he can't be feeling too good, Ravi. I wouldn't be too sad if he, if he throws in the towel a little early. Everything has been going so wrong for him so far.
Cats, this does not bode well for the rest of this series right now. Oh no. Oh no.
Yeah, okay. I mean, the good thing is there's an easy reset spot. You don't have to think much about this game, right? If you're Big Gabe, if you're able to keep calm and have a good mindset. And I'm not saying that this game is lost, but kind of saying that maybe it's gonna be very, very difficult to come back against one of the best Protosses in the world. But it's an easy game to be like, yeah, well, I'm not gonna drop my first meal on the other side, and hopefully things don't snowball into oblivion.
To put this into perspective, it's like, the way I would put it is, it's not like running a 26 mile or whatever marathon and you trip and fall. It's like running the 500 meter dash and you trip and fall at the beginning. Like, okay, look, you're not technically out of it just yet, but it's not a good sign. It's not a good start.
Yeah, I think that's a very good way to put it. Because I mean, your opponent could also trip. There's these running tracks are not always. Sometimes there's rocks in them. But yeah, I mean, this Hellion's gonna get taken down. Nothing really working in Big Gabe's favor so far. He does have a Cyclone. That's the kind of unit that, if your opponent throws in an Oracle and it picks it off right away, then maybe you're kind of back in the game. But it hasn't happened. Stats is not giving that option to equalize, and it's I don't know what to say. It's rough.
Okay, well, Robotics Bay, we'll see where that ends up leading off to, as a lot of Protoss players have really enjoyed going into the Phoenix opening and straight into, say, like the Colossus and everything. Complements each other very well. And that is one thing that maybe Big Gabe can try and take advantage of, is that this is one of the more predictable styles. If he has a really solid way to just jump in on these kind of openings, find a way to punish them by playing a little bit greedier and saying, I know what you're doing, I can exploit the fact that I know what you're doing, like cut corners. That might be one way to pull himself back in.
Definitely. Another good way would be to take minimal or no damage from these Phoenixes. They're just kind of, if they are just made to be defensive units and they can't use their energy aggressively, then that'll be something to work with for Big Gabe. He is one of the best macro Terrans in the world. There's no doubt in my mind about that. So, you know, he's going to be producing things as well as anyone can. And if Stats messes up, if Stats gets a supply block here and there, maybe, you know, maybe that's an opening too.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of Marines are being found by these Phoenix, and they are going to eventually get chased off by the double Vikings. That will be nice, but losing just a small bit of the army over there is going to make it more annoying even later on to help deal with the Phoenix, because like you were saying, ensuring that you don't take damage also means that you have to spread out your army very well between your bases, especially with the 3rd CC now finishing up into the orbital command. So you do need to make sure you have enough units to actually position at all your bases to push them back.
Yeah, beautiful observer positioning from the side of Stats as well. So he's able to move with the Phoenixes. Good spotter from HeRoMaRinE is going to see the Phoenix movement and now can react accordingly. It looks like HeRoMaRinE is this just securing his 3rd, or is he looking to move out? Okay.
Okay, yeah, he is going to pull back. I was worried because he moved all of his Marines forward, but he is going to leave a handful of them still in his main base because the missile turret alone is not enough to push back the Phoenix. Yeah, that observer in the middle, in between his 3 bases as well. I don't think he spotted it. I'm not sure that he will ever spot it. It's very well positioned in where, you know, where there's the doodads and the grass, so it kind of blends in easily. And yeah, that's kind of annoying, right? That's great for Stats because it allows him to move accordingly with the Phoenix. Saw it. Yeah, you just actually got the pick off there.
Nice.
So
that's
talented.
important. Very talented.
Yeah, like you were saying, that it was going to provide a lot of vision for the Phoenix to know what were the potentially safer areas to dive into based on how many Marines there were moving around between the 3rd and the natural and stuff. But he's going to continue to just dive around, trying to find some damage. Behind all of this, though, we do have Stats able to get up a couple of these Colossus already, adding on High Templars, and he doesn't have store or anything. Those High Templars are purely just for the Archons right now, but with a handful more gateways finishing up, he's going to 10 gateways. This is I mean, Stats in super duper power mode. A 4th base is already on the way.
Yeah, he is indeed in super power mode, and it's difficult. So I'm not sure what Big Gabe is going to have to do. It looks like he's just going to gear up for a later game. I mean, he's keeping up in supply, Ravi, right? Like he's even ahead in supply. So I'm not sure I fully grasp what's going on. I feel like Stats has taken every favorable trade so far. Like he's lost much less resources. The mule happened, but Big Gabe is keeping up somehow.
Yeah, I don't think that Big Gabe is like super duper far behind. I do think that Stats is trying to turn all of his the smaller early game advantages into just being able to play very, very quick and greedy with his tech. And now, as the 10 gateways have finished up, he's going to get a big warp in, and this is where his supply is going to start spiking up a little bit more. He's got very, very scary army units. You look at the upgrades, and +1 armor is actually not quite. I guess it's not really there for either one of these players, so maybe it's actually not going to be too big of an impactful thing. HeRoMaRinE, you really need to know that this push is coming over here. He really needs to recognize this. He sees a couple of Zealots. He's going to maybe be able to reposition a few army units over toward the left-hand side.
Yeah, I mean, his tank line is wonderful, though. It's beautiful, and it's very well tucked back. It's going to be not so easy for Stats to go through any of these chokes, really. And look at HeRoMaRinE making additional chokes for those Zealots so that they don't easily engage onto those Marines. So I don't know that I hate this position for Big Gabe. I would love a bunker or two, and I think that he can maybe hold. This tank line is very powerful. I like the angling from Stats here potentially, too.
All right, there's +1 armor finishing up over there for Stats, and +2 weapons is not too far behind. He may end up waiting for that before ever actually deciding to commit too heavily to anything over here. He's going to start poaching around on the right-hand side. Big Gabe already recognized it. Like you said, all those spotter Marines doing a great job of seeing that this army is going to be moving around. Vikings also being able to find a little bit of chip damage on some of those Phoenix, which maybe big opportunity over here. The Warp Prism is actually going to be really important. It takes a lot of damage, and it is going to go down.
Yeah, I mean, that it is true also that Stats is maxed out, so it's not the worst loss in the world, and he's not really looking to attack, it looks like, or reinforce this attack. But important to say is that Big Gabe has gotten to 200 supply, that he has a strong competent... Oh, and actually, what? I did not expect this. Stats is going for it. I'm not sure if I like this from him. He's gonna lose a few units onto those chokes that Big Gabe artificially created. And to be honest, that was a great hold from Gabriel, in spite of being kind of out of position for the start.
I'm 100% with you, Paulo. That attack caught me a bit off guard as well. You know, he's attacking into the wall in of the supply depots. The Zealots get very far ahead of themselves with charge and go straight into the mineral line and are kind of separated off from all the Archons and the Colossus for a bit. Stats definitely dropped a lot in supply right there. He's going to try and poach forward for another angle with a lot of ghosts in the mix now, though. The EMPs can really do a lot over here. And Warp Prism going to get sniped off again.
Yes, indeed. And I mean, this army from Stats is not particularly technical anymore. He hasn't really been taking up in a way that I feel too happy for him. I mean, there's not really any Templars to speak of, for example. Great numbers of Zealots and Stalkers are not usually good, whereas, you know, for HeRoMaRinE, he has great army complexity, a bunch of tanks, very many ghosts, some Vikings in there, Marauders. You know, it's not a crappy Marine only army or something like that that's gonna melt against this sort of AoE. He has to be in position to defend, though.
Yeah, Stalker's going to be pushed forward very quickly to try and snipe off a couple of these Vikings. Charge lots, mostly using their charge very early on, and they're on the left-hand side of this fight. So now if they want to try and charge forward, absorb some of the damage, very awkward. Those EMPs just annihilating the health of those Archons.
Yeah, they're going to have to run back, but survive ultimately, which is good for Stats. If he can go get back to shield batteries or something and replenish those Archons, that'll be good for him. Yet still, Aftermath, Ravi, it's Stats that is falling behind in the resources lost tab.
Yeah, I think what you said earlier is like really hitting the point home, is that there wasn't really feeling like a big transition point for any of his army tech to handle, say, a lot of ghosts being added in, because he had such an Archon heavy army, a lot of charge lots. He is starting to mix in a lot more Stalkers now, and he is starting to get up a couple of Disruptors, but I guess I wouldn't mind if there was like a second Robo. Okay, there is a second Robo. Yeah, now he starts up double Disruptor production. But I was going to say, this is where it does get a little bit dicey in the later stage of the game, especially if Big Gabe is able to really build up a big size army in like a nice defensive position.
Yes, indeed. And I mean, it's what you were talking about, Ravi. He was going for an attack. That was his original plan. Now it's him with a huge concave stats, that is. So Big Gabe's going to have to be careful. But hey, again, attacking onto a choke, and so many tanks in the back there are gonna dish out a lot of good damage for Big Gabe. A little bit better of a trade from Stats to start things off. But yeah, like I was saying, Ravi, I think you were perfectly right earlier to point out that Stats was preparing and gearing up for an attack. But Big Gabe realized it as well as you did, and he had a brilliant response, and that's how he catches back up, right? Like, he just says, I have to defend right now. It's such a difficult thing to identify. Hey, just sit back, you know, on your 3 bases, make units, and that'll be what you need to do, instead of, like, say, harassing or something like that. But hey, Stats is gonna find an opening, Ravi.
Yeah, he's going to be able to zone out this army for a little bit with the Disruptors. None of the Disruptors making massive connections just yet, and actually a lot of them going off into nothing. But during all this, 22 workers killed off because HeRoMaRinE can't get his army in position while dodging those shots.
Yeah, and that's all this Observer, right? The entire time. Every time that HeRoMaRinE moves out, this Observer gives information to Stats to move in, and it really needs to get dealt with. I mean, there's something giving him the information, so you can't be falling for this move over and over again. And this DT's wonderful snipe from Stats, and all out of nowhere, Ravi. Stats is gonna close out a hectic game.
Really well done there in the end by Stats. And like you said, a hectic game indeed. Obviously not the best start there for HeRoMaRinE with, you know, some early game mistakes and everything. So I have to say, like, HeRoMaRinE did a great job of, like you said, identifying the situation, cutting the right corners, or just making the right decisions in reaction to start pulling himself back forward. But man, it's a tough spot at that point. I feel like Stats did a great job of finding the opening in the end.
Yeah, he did really well. I mean, those Observers really were so good for Stats all game long. And yeah, HeRoMaRinE, I think he shouldn't feel too bad, right? You look at that game if you're HeRoMaRinE, and I think you gain confidence in a weird way, because you kind of equalize things from a very difficult position, from everything going wrong in the early game for you, the type of mistakes that will really get in your head. And we saw him smiling and laughing. And like I said, it maybe seems like, oh, that's a good mindset to have. But that also shows that his head is not in the game. His head is, at that moment, he's thinking, okay, people are watching how I just dropped that mule right on stream. And that's what he's reacting to, is the camera. So I think it's going to be a much stronger start this time, almost no matter what, right? So I'm looking forward to this next game.
Yeah, I definitely hope so. And yeah, maybe he just needed a little bit of that time to kind of warm himself up and everything. Stats, like you said before, was trying to really gear up for that one big attack, so he ended up committing quite a bit to that, and he did eventually find an opening over there, but like you said, it was thanks a lot in part to like the observers and everything. I absolutely could see a world where he didn't quite get that sick engagement where he just zones out the entire army with the disruptors and takes out 22 workers, and then the DTs also get a right click down on a planetary fortress. Like, I think Stats definitely got a little bit lucky there at the end. And I say lucky not in the sense of like, oh man, he just got lucky. He didn't actually do anything with skill. Like, he created his own luck there for sure.
Yeah.
But it's not like those were moves that HeRoMaRinE was incapable of reacting to.
Absolutely, and for the most part, he had his army in neutral positions. Like he just got caught when he was moving it a little bit too far south, right? Or maybe he could have left a couple of tanks to anchor to buy himself time. I think the bunker might have been empty. You know, little things that are easy to tinker with and really do better with. So I think we can expect that from this man in this game. It is for Mouse Sports. HeRoMaRinE!
And up here in the top left-hand side of the map, the blue Protoss player from the Freak of Freaks, it is Stats.
Submarino, Ravi. What's your initial thoughts here?
For Submarine?
Hell,
sorry, it took me a moment to parse that accent, and I'm like, a fast marine? What? Like, Submarine, okay, this is definitely a map that usually Terran players say they'll feel more comfortable on. So I have to imagine that HeRoMaRinE really likes this, but that being said, there was one weird thing that actually happened in the War Chest Team League when I had Trap on my team. Trap would occasionally, versus some players, really actually like Submarine. It didn't seem like against all Terran players, but occasionally he would be like, against, you know, everyone was predicting like, okay, you're probably going to face a Terran player on Submarine. And Trap was like, give me Submarine. I don't know if it's like a Korean Protoss thing, if they sometimes do like this map. I do wonder, like, it's a bit odd to let this map through the vetoes. So maybe Stats does have some special plans for it.
Yeah, I think it's good for players to kind of like have a mindset of not this is a Terran map or a Zerg map or a Protoss map, but how do I use the map the best that I can as. And I think Korean players have that sort of mindset more etched into the way that they play because in Korea there's such a long tradition of StarCraft and professional gaming. So I think that they're more willing to play any map, because on my team also Stats and Sue were like, put me on any map, you know? And it's not that they're underestimating things. It's just that they want to feel comfortable on any map because the situation might arise where they want to play it or have to.
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. Having that kind of mindset, you are at least prepared for the possibility. And, you know, the more you're prepared for, the less you're giving your opponent options to just hard shut you down with a situation you just are not familiar with. Now, Reaper is doing its usual harassment over here. We actually have a little bit of oversaturation in that gas geyser, so Stats maybe a bit more focus on the Adept harass as he never corrected his probe rally. All right, he's going to get it done now.
Yeah, the two Marines are going to respond quickly from the side of Big Gabe. The one is going to fall, actually. So very well done by the Adept of Stats, who is going to be able to escape with a little HP here to spare. But yeah, I think that one thing to look out for on Submarine is that obviously it's the shortest rush distance map. It's relatively, close to expand towards your opponent map in the later game. It's also small. It's not just really short. So yeah, we'll see how players use that. It looks like Stats is he's gonna say blink.
Yeah, I don't hate Blink for this kind of map, especially since, like you were saying, it's very small. It's very quick for things like even drops and stuff to get across the map. So being able to react quickly is also pretty important. But Adepts finding just so much damage. One Adept finally does go down. He's gonna get one more Marine before this Adept falls, I think. Yeah, this is I mean, think about what HeRoMaRinE would normally like to do, right? He's getting up the Widow Mines, he's getting up the medevac. It's gonna be like 3, maybe 5 Marines left back at home while he goes for a medevac drop of the Widow Mines. This is a kind of an awkward start now, it feels like.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It's all gonna come down to that and the reaction times from stats, or if Big Gabe is able to create some diversions. Another thing that I do like for the blink is the map topology at the natural. You can blink into so many areas, right? You can blink into the main from the low ground of the third, or into the natural from the low ground of the fourth. So that could also work in favor of stats. But let's see what this meta. Oh, is it not gonna get spotted by anyone? Oh, they both barely missed it. They both barely missed it.
Just a little too far forward.
How is that possible? They both barely missed it, I think, Ravi. Yeah, there's nothing in position.
That is actually so important. That's like the calculated risk, right? Where you're like, okay, I'll position my stalkers. I have to have an opening somewhere because I just don't have enough units. This is where I'll have the opening. Surely the luck won't fail me here. But, you know, still a pretty good reaction. He's going to be able to actually potentially get the mid.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and that's just a little edge from players like stats, right? Like perfectly microing those stalkers. You needed every single shot of those to get the medevac. You couldn't miss even one stalker at the end there, so very well done. And yeah, not a very good start for Big Gabe, who only gets 2 probes for his troubles.
Okay, well, stalkers now have the opportunity to move across the map, having dealt with the harassment. If that Widow Mine drop was still alive, just sitting in the dead airspace, maybe there's an opportunity to keep the stalkers at home a bit longer, but now we end up seeing them over here poking forward, and that observer, really, really important to keep alive.
Yeah, reveals the blink to try to snipe a Marauder, but the minerals and the gas get in the way. This is gonna allow Big Gabe, however, to reposition his tank and kind of be fine against the blink attack. Stalker getting a little low there, but not dying.
Yeah, I mean, I love the way that Sass is playing this out. He's just finding a bit of free damage over here. He's adding on all of his giveaways back at home. He's kind of getting into his good old groove as he adds on charge as well. Because remember, he's only on 2 gateways this entire time, right? This is where the big flood comes in, because you say, I'm on 3 bases. I should probably catch up on, you know, my production. But he's doing a great job of just finding little pickoffs here and there.
Do you think Big Gabe is gonna be pulling SCVs here or something of the sorts? He doesn't have a 3rd CC. He has a lot of production for 2 base, and he's gonna scout if he hasn't already. Stats being very greedy with this 3rd. I think when he scouts this 3rd fully saturated, it's gonna be difficult for Big Gabe to make a different decision than just pull everything and go for it. And I think this might be his one of his better shots. Yeah,
I mean, Submarine is also a pretty good map for it, Paulo, because again, it's a small map. So your units get across the map, including even your SCV pull gets across the map very, very quickly. It doesn't give your opponent
not doing it though.
a ton of time to react. But yeah, no SCVs or anything been pulled just yet. He is at least rallying units across the map, so he is getting a bit more committed to this. He's gonna get caught by some of the stalkers over here, but there's just not that large of an army yet for stats. Even with charge finish up and all the gateways finishing, the army here for HeRoMaRinE gets in position first.
Yeah, and I think this might be enough for HeRoMaRinE to push on through. There's not really a shield battery here either, which would be very, very important for stats. Not all the units firing, 2 medevacs still remaining. The tank gets saved. And Ravi, I gotta say, I mean, I would have loved to see some additional SCVs. The mine's not really doing too much because there's not that many Zealots, unfortunately, for HeRoMaRinE.
Paulo, I just have to say, the Blink Stalker micro there from stats is actually insane. I actually think there are a lot of Protoss players HeRoMaRinE was gonna break there. I feel like I was actually agreeing with what you were calling. I was like, this is a really, really scary push in over here. HeRoMaRinE had a lot of units, but that Blink Stalker micro, even after all the charge lots were dead and the Stalkers are supposed to be these super duper fragile units against Stim Marauders and Marines, Stats just kept them all alive for just long enough that he was able to buy time for another warp in, snipe off the siege tank, and actually make a defense happen over there.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, like I was saying during the fight, though, HeRoMaRinE wasn't really attacking with like 4 or 5 units for like half of the fight, which might seem pretty small, but it's actually huge, right, in terms of damage output. So I think that could have also turned the tides. I think that SCVs being pulled could have turned the tides, but I think HeRoMaRinE is just confident that he can do it in the later game, right? He wants this little, he wants this little push to try and trade, and maybe that was enough for him. A little bit of a poke here from stats.
Yeah, just finding tiny bits of damage over here. I find a couple SCVs. Medevacs keep a lot of them alive, but actually gonna end up losing 4 or so, but draws a lot of the army out of position at the same time. Looks like he doesn't want to commit in over there. He's like, wait a second, actually, the rest of the Bioforce should be somewhere around here. Decides to back off.
All right, so I mean, there's Storm on the way, 4 stats. This is a very choky map. That's another one of its features. So High Templars out on the map will be very strong against any sort of army that is, you know, just going through. Look at those. Look at those very narrow positions, right? A Storm there, imagine it, Ravi. Poof.
Yeah, the Storm will be pretty brutal if he is able to find the nice opportunities for it. But let's see. I see an Archon around right now. I see 4 High Templars out.
What a cool push.
Him as part of the army just yet, and he's getting pushed back really, really quickly.
I love this push by Big Gabe. I mean, it's such a strange one, but the Widow Mines are there for the Zealots. They're pushing on 4th, whereas the tanks and the Liberators are kind of the sieging anchors. So very cool strategy from Big Gabe. A lot of the bio has already gone down in the front. However, good Storm in the back is going to catch a lot of the remaining bio, and it looks like Stats might just have enough. The reinforcements for Big Gabe are arriving. However, the Widow Mine is trying to get planted. Will it be enough? It's looking very, very close. Oh, great Widow Mine shot! That might just turn the tides, Ravi.
It gets really, really close, and we end up seeing Stats has to back off. He has another big warp in back on his natural over here. The Robo is actually going to be under fire. The Stalkers just alone cannot deal with Stim Bio like this. Robo gets C-powered and then is going to get picked off. Looks like some Zealots are doing some counter harassment. Stats trying to keep himself alive in this game, having to pull some probes off the mineral line. But those probes, the best that they might do is actually do some friendly fire with the Widow Mines. Can Stats actually hold on just a little bit longer over here? Even if he does, he's lost a lot of workers. But what is this? What are the SCVs doing over here?
I'm not sure. They're not what they're supposed to be doing. I mean, I thought he was pulling them, and I think fighting they could be all right, but definitely not mining. I think he just drilled and forgot about him a little bit. And yeah, Ravi, that was looking good for Big Gabe, but he was depleted out of energy. He still is depleted out of energy on his medevacs, and that's the biggest issue here.
I think that's he's still gonna have to tap out. HeRoMaRinE, wow, got really, really close there, especially with, you know, sacrificing all the workers without the rest of your army there. You know, I don't mind the SCV pull there. It's just the SCV pull going into the army without the rest of your army is a little bit dicey, but man, wow, what a game to pull back there. HeRoMaRinE doing a great job. And guys, I think that we are going to head to a short break, you know, the usual stuff after game 2. We'll be back to conclude this series in just a little bit. Don't go anywhere. Big Gabe pulls himself back up by his bootstraps and manages to come back in game number 2 to tie up the series 1-1. Submarine, definitely one of the weirder maps out there in terms of it being very small, but now we get to head onto a more typical map for game number 3 here, Cats. It's going to be Lightshade.
Yeah, I mean, this map is also very short and not quite as choky, very open around the expansions, but it has a very big choke in the middle as well. That's kind of difficult to go through. So those are, I think, the key features of this map. Otherwise, the layout is pretty normal, but it's actually only 1 second longer than Submarine, Ravi.
Really? 1 second? That's all it is? Okay.
Yep.
Today I learned.
Maybe.
See, here's the way that I judge map sizes, Paulo, is I look at the mini map and I'm like, how big are those squares for the minerals? That's literally how I judge how large a map is.
Yeah, it works out. It's good.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we're going to be starting over here on the top left-hand side of the map, atop of the red Terran player from Mouse Esports. He is HeRoMaRinE.
Bottom right-hand side for Africa Freaks, the Shield of Ire. It is Stats.
Very actively scouting around for the potential proxies again, similar to game number 1. So still really wants to respect the potential that HeRoMaRinE could be throwing out some kind of cheeky cheese or a proxy, but I'm kind of with you. I feel like even if HeRoMaRinE does sometimes throw out some of those cheeses and stuff, like I don't usually feel like it's like the super early barracks, right? It'd be like, oh, I'm gonna like proxy a starport and go for like a fast Hellion drop and transition out.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the scout's not gonna lose him the game or anything, but it's this little thing that's kind of showing, to me at least, that Stats doesn't know HeRoMaRinE as well as Europeans know HeRoMaRinE. And if you don't know HeRoMaRinE as well, then he's gonna come out swinging with one of the best macro Terran play that you'll ever see out of anyone. So, you know, that's gonna be difficult for anyone. But if you metagame that, if you say, well, this guy is gonna macro, right? This guy is not gonna proxy, then you can cut certain corners that Stats is probably not thinking to cut.
Absolutely. All right, well, so we got the SCV making its way for that nice early scout, just confirming, all right, you got a usual wall off over here to help deal with Hellion harass. You got the usual Nexus and everything. I don't have to worry quite as much of this. Reaper is saying, okay, where's the probe? I know that probe tried to come back in last time, was able to get some good damage done, so he's gonna have that Reaper left back at home. Gets the kill and says, all right, my command center and my bunker get up unimpeded today.
Yeah, that's going to be a good thing for him to start. The Adept and the Reaper are going to meet in the middle of the map, and the Reaper is going to have to run away, but there is going to be a bunker finishing. The SCVs will be tucked inside the main, and things should be perfectly fine here for HeRoMaRinE.
Yeah, not going to be dealing with the annoying harassment from some previous games that we've seen. Although the Adept, of course, still try to find some information. He'll poke up the ramp, see, okay, are you building like a reactor or anything over there? And we do see a pretty quick Twilight Council being added on back at home for Stats, which I have to imagine is usually just going to be for the good old Blink play.
Yeah, it seems like that's his comfort zone. I mean, Stats is very much like Gabe, a very strong macro defensive player. So this is kind of a really cool matchup to see in that sense, because we see that clash of styles where they kind of can lock horns for a while. Obviously, Submarine, not really that map, but we'll see. I think this, especially for the last game of the series, I think we can expect both players will be gravitating towards their comfort zone.
Excellent micro over there from Stats, able to pick off a Marine, soften up the Hellion, and still get out of there alive with both of those Adepts thanks to some nice micro. HeRoMaRinE keeping that Reaper alive himself for a little bit, but is going to be running straight into the Adepts, and
oh no,
ooh, there's the kill.
Yeah, he doubled back into his death. Sadly, that Reaper trying to react. So yeah, if he didn't react, he would have been fine, I think. There's now the Swapperoo, and there's going to be a Raven coming out. I'm not sure if this is necessarily for a push. I guess it could also be, you know, for any sort of defense against the likes of Colossi from the side of Stats. But once again, we know that it's going to be Blink.
Yeah. Blink is, I mean, it's kind of the typical go-to opener for a lot of Protoss versus Terran. Even if we've seen some Protoss players start to mix things up a little bit again more recently, this is just, it's such a solid standard way to kind of open up. So kind of makes sense. Like you said, it plays to Stats' persona and his personality for it. But adds on that fast Robo Bay, and we'll see if he's going to be moving into those quick Colossus again.
Yeah, it looks like that's going to be the case, and then I feel a lot better about the Raven. I'm not sure that there is really staying on Blink for too long. We've seen it from time to time, but most players will look for that transition that you were talking about. It's likely to be Colossus, and like I said, you know, utility out of the Raven is probably good news for Big Gabe.
Yeah, nice scout there from Big Gabe with a Hellion, by the way, because you see the Robo Bay at that time, and you're like, okay, I know that it's probably not like 4 gateways or something. If you remember the series versus Nice, where Nice, you add on more gateways, you're being more aggressive with the Blink Stalkers. It kind of gets to eliminate some of the potential really aggressive attacks that could be potentially be coming out that HeRoMaRinE would have to respect a bit more, with more than just, you know, handful of Marines and Marauders in the main base. Like, you got to really make sure you're locked down against Blink Stalker routes. Now he doesn't have to worry about that stuff. He can actually have just a more normal defense.
Yes, indeed. Stat spots the Raven, so he relocates his observer still to give him information, but I don't think he hasn't sieged it this time, right? Which I kind of like because it keeps it versatile, but he's in a position where he might be out of the path of the Raven regardless. So let's see what he's gonna do with this space. The observer now sieging in that very good position. And yeah, I don't know, Ravi, how are you feeling here?
Yeah, I mean, I feel fine. I think that Stim is getting very close to finishing, so Staff has to be very careful with these blinks, because yes, he has blink. Yes, he can escape out of here, but it's literally a few seconds away from finishing. So yeah, okay, Stats super duper on point with that. He is gonna back off at the right time. He's looking to re-engage. Okay, this is where I get a little scared now, Cats, because if you re-engage, you can blink out, but if your Stalker's already low on hit points and there's a Stim forward, they can actually start to catch up with you.
Yeah, and there is a small Stim forward. Luckily for Stats, there is no concussive shells on those Marauders, so the Stalkers are going to be able to get out for the time being. And this is going to buy space for Big Gabe to drop his third command center on location as well. He will get a scan off onto those Colossi. He can disable them, and he's going to jump on them. The shield battery nearly just finished, but not fast enough, and Big Gabe is going to go inside. He says, I don't need to fight your army. Good blink to avoid the first mine shot, but the second one hits good, Ravi.
Yeah, we end up seeing this Bioforce going all the way over into the main base. He's sniping off one of the Robo. No, that's terrible. Robo gets immediately restarted over here, but this Bioforce, even if it all ends up getting picked off, the Raven looks like it's actually going to be able to escape out of there alive as well. And there's a Force at the third base doing more damage.
Yeah, this is really, really nice. I love that we own Node at the same time, but for different players, because they both had terrible losses. One lost his Robo, and then Big Gabe loaded his entire medevac, and it lost it with 4 units, or I think it was 2 Marines and 3 Marauders or something full. So, you know, that could have gone better for him as well. It's a very exciting game so far.
Yeah. I really actually like all the harassment that HeRoMaRinE just put on, though, because yes, a lot of the army stays alive over here for Stats, and maybe that's the kind of power tool he'll have, but even just being able to put on more harassment and kill off a couple of probes over the third base, delaying additional Robotech for such a long time, I think that, like you said, you kind of pointed out before, that gives HeRoMaRinE the safety as he establishes his third back at home. He kind of gets to get into his groove now.
Yeah, it's really good, and look at that mine spacing. It's beautiful. Those Stats has been so very good throughout this entire series with the observers. That is so very crucial for him to keep up if he's going to be going up against these mines. The Stalkers blink on forward. He wants to give Big Gabe no time to react, and one mine will go down for free. The observer might get spotted as a result, though. I'm surprised there's no scan, perhaps just no energy at the moment.
Yeah.
That's the
very bold
observer. Yeah.
I guess I'll get vision of all the Widow Mines now, and forces a full liftoff over here. HeRoMaRinE is ultra respecting this army, and it is a scary looking army over here. He doesn't have any siege tanks in position. He's getting one sieged up now. That might be what he needs to feel a little bit safer, at least in the natural, even with some Liberators being added on over here. That is so many charge lots right now, Cats. I really do think Stats is trying to commit to something over here. He's going to be able to find it.
Yeah, we'll see about that. He's going into a choke. The Marines and Marauders are gonna get good surface area, but it's those Colossi that need to get to them. Big Gabe is gonna have to pull his SCVs defensively here. Will it be enough? The Colossi still both alive. There's really nothing to take care of them, and they are standing strong on the back. Oh no, Ravi, I think, is this enough though? All right, he is able to get onto the Colossus. They are fragile now. Ravi, who's winning? I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, HeRoMaRinE
right.
just lost a lot of his work because he's in all-in position right now. He's going to actually chase after the Warp Prism that has one of the Colossus inside. Remember, there's only 2 Colossus left on the map right now, Cats, and there's 2 Stalkers. That's the army right now, Stats. It's 2 Colossus, 2 Stalkers, and an Adept.
Yeah, but energy on the medevacs is nearly non-existent. You might as well remove them from the equation here. I'm not sure that this is the way for Big Gabe. I think maybe at least pull the SCVs or something. It's going to be so difficult. Now he stims. He's going to have to commit on forward with that stim. We'll get rid of the battery, I assumed, but no, actually. Okay, he will target it because that battery is very essential for Stats defense. And with this, Big Gabe might have enough here. The medevacs continue to be a problem, Ravi.
Yeah, medevacs are definitely healing up this army, but I think a Big Gabe supply is dropping pretty rapidly over here. Remember, Stats gets so many more reinforcements every single second that goes by, and with this army now defending,